Best. Okay. Just a moment to finish a few things up. Just a moment. Okay. So. Right. Hello, everyone. So, what are we doing today? Today, we are continuing where we left off yesterday. So, we generally plotted out the route. I should probably go into what we managed. So, yesterday we finished with Urban Freedom Monk, with it being if you use your movement to jump, fall, move along a vertical surface. And in-arm strokes made that turn a curve advantage, basically to get the thing of kind of, we're encouraging you to move to attack. One thing I did add, just so that hopefully it's one D&D compatible, is I made it that, because they made jumping an action instead of part of movement, so what I do is I said it only requires a bonus action, because otherwise that undoes a lot of this class. Actually, I want it to be a can, because that way they can still use an action to jump. Basically, they can use an action to jump or a bonus action to jump. Yep. So we did Paladin of Justice, which has a lot of healing spells in its spell list. A lot more than most Paladin stuff. That's kind of because the way I look at Over Justice is you're not necessarily the frontline fighter in this group, you are the support paladin. Your thing is, because it's a paladin, because all these are based on one day, so the paladin is kind of based around the concept of activism, and I imagine them being the person that if a protest gets stumped down upon, they're the person that kind of rallies, makes sure everyone gets out okay. So they've got a lot of healing spells. They have two channel divinities, one which is basically a healing word. So it is weaker than a cleric's healing channel divinity. And then you have riot bombs, which is basically you throw bombs of smoke and paint. You pick a point within 30 feet, it has a 15-foot explosion. Creatures you pick get covered in paint, which acts like fairy fire. While any creature is in the smoke, it's counted as being basically it's been treated as invisible, so it cannot be seen. Because again, we're working off one D&D where they've made invisible different. Aura of Support is basically you give temporary hit points as your aura effect. Rallying Cry is you can again give temporary hit points with a speech. The key thing here is it's more temporary hit points than the aura. And the main and for when your hit points get low enough that you have to make a choice, the key thing with Rallying Cry is it's one of those temporary hit point effects where it's you have temporary hit points and you get an extra effect, which is you have advantage on saving throws. And then your ultimate effect is you're resistant to all damage. Your allies have advantage on death saves. Each point you'll lay in hand pools restores 5 hit points instead of 1. And if you're a creature with a melee weapon, you can do no damage, but then you mark it for other creatures to attack. It's a support paladin. Like, the core paladin class is a very good combat class, which is why I felt confident making the subclass more supporty. Also, there was no real point me giving paladin a lot of combat spells or combat effects, because really a paladin isn't going to use them. They'll use Divine Smite. So what I did instead was I basically went, okay, well, we're going to give you healing spells. We're going to give you spells like freedom of movement to escape grapples and bindings. We're going to give you passive out trace. We're giving you support spells so that you're not got this spell compete with my smite. It's here is a situation where I might want to use a spell instead of a divine smite. So Ranger is Urban Explorer. Rangers only get one spell. It's a lot of this is kind of in the inverse of it's like very much like the Paladin. It relies on the fact that the core class, looking at the 1D&D playtest version, is as a combat class fairly solid. So what Urban Explorer is about is less buffing your combat, it's about the exploration side of the 3 pillars. So as you can see from the spells, you get comprehend languages, Spider Climb, Speak with Dead, Banishment, Legend Lore. Banishment's the only really one you want to use in combat. The rest of them are about gaining knowledge, learning things. Urban Explorer is basically you get sleight of hand, thieves' tools, proficiency. You get a dark vision, and you can recall the paths you tread. Basically, this is the ranger that can go into the sewers, and they know the way back out the sewers. Or they go into the abandoned warehouse, and they won't get lost. The rest of the party might, but they won't. The other 3rd level thing they get is we're leaning on the 1D&D playtest a bit heavy here with the study action, which is basically the study action is basically as an action you make a knowledge roll. Depending on what you want to learn depends which intelligence skill you get. I quite like it being called the study action, because a lot of people made you use it as an action anyway, and the nice thing is it codifies it in a way that I can go, right, you're making a knowledge roll, that's the study action. So if you're making a study action in an area with a repository of knowledge, such as archives, a library, or the internet, and you're researching a place, a location, maybe some local folklore, you have advantage on that roll. So it's not the most powerful ability in the world because it requires you do the study action in a location to get your advantage. The key thing is, if you find any appropriate information during your research, you remember it for the next month. You can perfectly remember images, video and audio records, building plans, as well as written words. Basically, if you've done the research for at least a month, you'll perfectly remember it. This period of time you can record normally, and you get that number of times equal to your wisdom's modifier per short rest. 6th level is your Hunter's Mark effect. It's a bit wordy. It's very big because it's lots of caveats. So it's in combat, you can use the study action as a bonus action. So you can use it as an action, but you can also use it as a bonus action. If you take the study action, you can recall knowledge about a creature or object you can see or hear. And then if you succeed the roll, in addition to the normal results, you get to pick one thing to learn. So you can learn if the target has any immunities, resistances, vulnerabilities, and what they are. That's standard. There are other range of stuff that do that. You can learn if it's a creature, if it's a legendary or mythic creature. If it's an object, you can learn its rarity. You can get a summary. So you don't get to see the exact wording, but you kind of get a kind of in-universe summary of something unique, either a trait or an action that the target has. So, for example, with ghouls, you might get a description of how its claws are coated in a stunning venom, or if it's a dragon, you might get told how it can breathe fire. And then you could also pick just an additional lore fact about the target. If it's hidden from divination magic, you get nothing unless you pick additional lore, at which point the DM can give you a fact, but it doesn't have to be truthful. And if you pick knowledge, immunities, resistance, vulnerabilities, then when you and that creature is the target of your hunter's mark, then your weapon attacks ignore the resistance and immunities that would affect the damage, that would affect the damage type of the weapon, but it doesn't affect things by spells. So basically it's, you know it, so you know how to overcome it. And then you get a proficiency bonus. You have tested Explorer, which is at high levels. You get proficiency in wisdom saves, an advantage against being frightened. If you already have proficiency in wisdom, you get to pick a different saving throw. And you can use wisdom instead of intelligence for checks made using the study action. Because Ranger does have a lot of ability stacks, so having that just kind of helps ease the burden of the Ranger. And then Explorer's Rebuttal. If you Hunter's Mark a thing, you basically get Fairy Fire on the creature, and then if you're hit by an attack roll, you can use a reaction to study the creature as per the earlier effect, and apply Hunter's Mark to the target without needing a spell slot. And then, of course, because of the earlier part of the effect, your Hunter's Mark then makes them glow. So, as I said, it's not really a combat class. You're not really getting any combat stuff by the fact that if your weapon would normally not hurt a creature because it's immune, or its damage would be half because of resistance, you get to ignore that for the attack. But it's kind of based more around the fact that you're playing into the exploration part of D&D. It is a subclass largely built around the exploration pillar. So I just need to quickly check my wording. So if you choose weapon is Yeah, that would alter the narrative. Okay, no, I think that's fine. So what we're currently working on now is the Rogue Cyber Operative. Now, originally, I had gone for Rogue Cyber Operative to be, as discussed last time, you get one of the abilities from Thief, which was about bonus action. You can make a sleight of hand check. Then we'd have something trap and tech based, something combat, and well, originally it was going to be teleport at 6th, something combat at 10th, digital invisibility at 14th. I was then, because I basically copied and pasted over the psychic subclass, the soul knife, because I need something to give me a rough idea of how many abilities I'm using in a class. It then occurred, however, that the psionic one actually had a very useful thing. And I was reading it, and I went, actually, that gives me an idea, because the loose idea of the cyber operative was it was going to be someone who could kind of teleport through electronic devices, and was basically a heister. They were basically all about the heist. It then occurred, well, if I'm going with cyber operative, that implies cybernetics. What if, in a similar way that, oh, pardon me, in a similar way that the soul knife has the psionic die to do its thing, what if we had charges that allowed you to have basically, here is your regular skill, here is the regular class feature, spend a charge of this pool to modify it. And so what I've come up with is the idea that a cyber operative is, we're leaning into the cyberpunk effectively. You have all these implants and subroutines wired through you that are controlled from a central nexus, and you can basically use a charge of power from this central nexus to enhance yourself. So basically, cybernetic enhancements. We went, you gain proficiency in hacker's tools, because obviously that's not included in regular rogue, because it's not high tech. Into your forearms are implanted thieves' tools and hackers' tools, so that. Ooh, thank you for the follow, Flying Fish Sauce. Yeah, so your cybernetics are. So you've got these tools in your forearms, so they can't be removed. And they can be deployed when needed for appropriate checks. And then you have two skills you can use. One, which was going to be the thing we originally wanted to do, which was basically you can use your cunning action to do a sleight of hand check, or use your thieves' tools to do a trap or lock. Yeah, it's like key points, but for Cyber Rogue. And then, except this is based off your proficiency bonus, which I believe key point is 1 per level of monk, if I recall. And nothing you can use your cyber thing for is basically, when you use a skill tool, you can, if you fail, you can basically get a reroll as an AI comes in to help. So I need to work out this ability, the other third level ability, which is I want to do something with traps and effects. We already have something here where you can use the cunning action to disarm traps. What I'm thinking maybe is like... Well, I'll quickly go into the other abilities we've got so far. So you've got Wire Walk, which I should say... Do it like this, I should do it like that. So it's basically you can travel through electrical wires, data links, telephone cables as a bonus action, but you've got to be able to see the point you're going to. And then the implant bonus to it is I'm calling it the Enhanced Corporeal Data Preservation System, which is basically you can teleport up to a mile if you can see it, visualize where you're going, or you can, it's like dimension door, you can kind of describe distance and direction. The only requirement is you still have to have a physical or a wireless data link between where you're starting and where you're going, because effectively you're traveling through data. But again, it's small distance without needing to use a charge, big distance if you use your charge, and then digital invisibility, which is the capstone, is as an action you can make yourself undetectable to digital devices, and then you can use a charge to become actually invisible. So my current thought, because effectively the only thing is you get equal to your proficiency bonus, and then at 10th level you get double your proficiency bonus, so the most you ever have is 12. So for this one I want to do something trap and tech effecty, so it'll be like the others where here is an effect, then here is a modified by an implant charge. And then what I'm tempted to do is look at how Soul Knife has done Psychic Blades. And then I kind of want to take a merge of the Psychic Blades of a Soul Knife, in that you kind of have these vibro blades that pop out your arms. But I want to do a thing where I kind of look to, there is a rogue subclass that's about killing people and you get bonuses for it. Basically, if you use this weapon, you can regain implant charges if you kill a cybernetic or construct opponent. Effectively use their energy to recharge yours through the blades. And then I was probably going to do a couple of implant effects with the blades. Do I want to do it there? I might do that, yeah. So my current thought is I give a couple of things with the blades, because the blades are another one where I'm not necessarily modifying the blade feature. What I'm doing is giving some generic abilities. So my current thought is you can use a charge to have advantage on a single death save. And then maybe leaning into, I don't want to necessarily give stunning strikes. I want to give something that's a bit more, because stunning strikes is very much you're out of the game for a temporary period. What I'm more looking at is potentially going, you cannot do certain things in your turn. So it might be like you cannot take an action, a bonus action or a reaction, because then effectively, if it's a boss creature, they can still use legendary actions, mythic actions. If it's a normal creature, they can still move. But what you're doing is you get the benefits of stunning, which is they can't attack you, but it makes the fight somewhat fairer because they're not going to attack you. Yeah. Maybe what? Because I'm trying to keep everything that technically I don't need to do a massive overhaul with 1D&D. So how? Because I believe there is a blinded condition they added for 1D&D. Did they not? I thought they added a blind condition. Let's check. Because I'm looking at the experts. I was looking at rogue. Let's look at cleric. I thought they added a blind condition. I could be wrong. I'm just checking some notes. Yeah, no, that's all right. B. Huh, I thought there was a blinded condition. Because I know they were looking at adding a bunch of conditions, because I think there's... Yeah, because they've added a dazed condition. Ooh, that works. You can move or take one action, not both. You cannot take a bonus. Ooh, yes, that's perfect. We could inflict the dazed condition. Yeah, so that's my current thought. Is basically so you can use a charge to daze someone. You can use a charge to have advantage on death saves for a turn. This is maybe going to make detecting traps a bit easier. Yeah. So what about... No, I think I know what I'll do here. Because obviously this thing has a requirement that you have a rough idea what physical connections there are. What if the base ability is you can activate a site that works like detect magic? Because currently, for those who are new, basically, the idea of all this came from at the very, 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 very start of 5e, when they first started doing Unearthed Arcanas. They released an Unearthed Arcana called Modern Magic. And the idea they had was you had techno-magical devices. So my current thought is, what if you can, as an action, get an equivalent for detect magic, but it basically lets you see techno-magical electronic devices. Like, you can see hubs, you can see cables through other materials. And then your implant is you can enhance this to then be a trap finding vision. Um, and then, yeah, I like that effect actually. That works. So what I want to do is two spells I want to reference the wording of, because it's not going to work exactly like the spells. But okay, so what we kind of want to do is so I want to keep the thing of what materials. So, detect magic let you as an action kind of see a thing. What if? One minute should be enough. Um, be back. Sorry, I just noticed we went out. Are we back? Are we back? I hate it when it does this. Let's see if that. There we go. We're back on green. Oh, I hate it when it does this. Apologies for the disconnection. Right. Should be back now. Right. So. Okay. Unstable. I'm getting green on OBS, so I don't know what the hell is going on with Twitch. I hate it some days. I really do. Right. So basically, there is a cost. So then we want to this one. This one to do so. We want this one to be like find traps. So yeah, so basically how this effect will work is you expend your implant charge and you will probably get a glow around an object that you can see is a trap. Very wordy effects, but they actually don't do much. It's just you have to put in a load of rules of what they can and cannot do. Okay, so let's have a think. How do There is 1d4. Okay, let's make it. So my thought is you can deploy a blade. From your forearm. It does. It's a finesse weapon. It's a light finesse weapon that does 1d6 electric damage plus your ability score modifier. It cannot be range. Cannot be range. Cannot be thrown because it's built into your arm. And it's counted as magical for overcoming resistance, which seems about reasonable for a level 6 ability. Based off how light weapons now work. Where is it? Here we go. You can make an extra attack as part of the same action. So what I would say is, as long as both hands are free, as part of the attack action, you can attack with both your arm blades. We'll make it a dazed. So we'll give a dazed action you can use with your blades. And we will give a death save thing, and the other thing we'll let you do is replenish. If you kill the appropriate enemy. Hello. How goes the writing and the making? It goes all right. I will talk in a second. I'm just on the roll with this ability, so but how they phrase it for my weapon. You don't add your ability modifier to the second attack. Okay, so right then we'll do the psychic stuff. Okay, so hey Nathaniel, we've made progress. So I can't remember where people were. So we have so far, based off the three original subclasses in modern D&D, we have a cyberneticist for the artificer, who is about modifying the bodies of others. So you have a list of cybernetic augmentations you can give. You can then give them to others as infusions, and then you have custom modifications, which are some big things for yourself. Barbarian Path of the Chem Warrior is basically you chem fuel yourself. Part your rage, you get temporary hit points, resist poison damage, and you're counted as basically being a large creature for moving stuff and grappling. Eventually, you can do some cool stuff like when you charge people, you get to do the charge damage. You get to knock someone prone if you charge at them. Yeah, basically your body gets mod. I think I don't think we had covered this one when you were last here, Nathaniel. Bard College of Influence has been done. So this is the streamer Bard. So you get electronic devices, and we added a thing called a viewer count. So whenever you finish a long or short rest, you roll a d4. On an odd number, you decrease your viewer count by the amount. On an even number, you increase it. If you roll a critical hit or do something the DM feels is particularly interesting, in the same way they can give heroic inspiration, you can increase your viewer count by 1d4. The viewer count only goes between 0 and 10. And then you have chat interactions, which is as a bonus action, you can use your bardic you can roll your bardic inspiration die to get a stream alert. You can delay acknowledging the alert until you finish a short or long rest. You can, as an action, pick a target within 30 feet to be affected by whatever alert you picked. And you can only store one at a time. Oh, give me a second, I just need to table properties. There we go. So you have follow, which is your... So some of these also will increase and decrease your viewer count based on the results. You have follow, which is for the next 10 minutes you get a bonus to your int, wiz, and charisma checks. Host is for a minute. A creature that hits you with a melee attack takes force damage. Hydrate is you can pick a target and then the target gets to pick another creature in addition, and both of them get temporary hit points. Subscription is you get 1d4 gold and heroic inspiration. 5 is a raid, which is you can use your reaction to give a creature the ability to immediately teleport 30 feet. Hype chat, so your chat's giving you hype vibes. Target creature gains temporary hit points, which is greater than the previous one, and while having the temporary hit points, your walking speed is increased, as is your AC. Drama in chat is basically you can make a creature succeed a saving throw or take psychic damage. Donate is you get gold and another creature, which can be you, gets temporary hit points. While the creature is the temporary hit points, it has +1 to hit and wound rolls. A flame raid is... So you've been raided with a bunch of haters. You basically can give a creature the ability to breathe fire for an action. Self-care check. You pick a creature, they regain hit points instead of temporary hit points and can remove a condition. 11 is negative feedback, which is you make a creature do an int check where they take a load of psychic damage, and then the final one is poll. Poll is you get to ask the chat and hope that they're on your side. You roll your inspiration die. On a 5 or less, you get 3 negative effects I cherry-picked from the deck of many things. The DM picks which of the 3 effects hit you. On a result greater than 5... Oh, it's 5 or less is the negative. Greater than 5 is positive. The DM picks one of 3 options, which is also picked from the deck of many things. So the bad effects is basically a creature, either an individual of great power or a supernatural creature who was watching your stream hates you and will try to ruin your life. You can either take a special chat challenge, which we'll see below, or you use normal means to convince the entity to stop hassling you. You lose your highest level spell slot for the day, or you get -2 to all saving throws and -1 to attack rolls until you complete a chat challenge. And then the positives is you get 1 item of the DM's choice worth at most 2,500 GP, with a chance it can be a wondrous item. You regain your 2 highest levels, use spell slots, or you just get the wish spell. It's kind of like you do have to roll a 12, which means you have to be a high level bard and then roll your bardic inspiration die and get high, and then you have to roll above a 5, and then your DM has to like you, and then you might get a wish spell. Your 6th level effect is when you can start leveraging your viewer count. So you can add your viewer count to charisma, intimidation, perception, and persuasion checks. After this, your viewer count decreases by 1 because some of your viewers don't like the fact that you're using them for clout. And if you cast a bard spell that requires a saving throw, and you're using your streaming device as your spell focus, that requires a saving throw, or the target is charmed for your streaming device, they reduce their saving throw rolls by your viewer count. Chat challenges is your level 10 thing, so basically you can request a challenge from the DM. If you successfully carry out the challenge before you complete a short or long rest, you regain a bardic inspiration die. If you fail it, your next roll on the stream alert table is roll twice, pick the lowest. And again, they affect your viewer counts, positive or negative. You can use a bardic inspiration die to recharge this effect, because it's basically you can use it once per short or long rest. Or you can use a spell slot or bardic inspiration die to recharge this. Which is kind of a self-defeating prophecy bowler. And then professional streamer is you have the ability to nudge stream chat in a certain way. So when you're on the stream alert table, you roll twice, pick which of the two effects you like. If you roll two with the same result, then you get to pick which effect goes for it. Then you get to just pick a result on the table. And when you make an ability check or attack roll and fail, you can expend a bardic inspiration die, roll it, add it to your check, and if you succeed, you get a free roll on the stream alert table and increase your viewer count, as well as whatever the effect of the ability is. If the roll still fails, you have to take a chat challenge and reduce your viewer count. It's a very random class, but that was kind of what I was going for, because you're at the whim of other people, not your own control. So then you have Blood Hunter, which is Order of the Cryptid, which ended up being a altered version of Order of the Lycan, because it turns out Order of the Lycan kind of already does Cryptid, and if you think about it, a werewolf already kind of fulfills Cryptid, except we've put it in folklore. So there are differences though. So at third level you have wisdom advantage on wisdom checks that rely on sight, hearing or smell, and stealth checks made to hide amongst natural features, because you have gained predatory traits. And then cryptid transformation, when you first get this ability, you have to pick so when you get the feature, you have to pick 3 benefits and a drawback, so you get to customize what your cryptid is, and then as a bonus action for an hour, you can transform into this alternate form. So combat features is basically you get horns, claws, fangs, a tail, something that you can use as a weapon. But then the other benefits, so you get to pick 2 benefits from among the list, which is amorphous, where basically you can escape grapples or squeeze through gaps. A number of these at 11th level, you get an extra thing. Aquatic lungs, so you can be like, so you can hold your breath for a while, then breathe underwater. Bestial might is your strength, you're just strong. Blood drinker, so when you do damage with your weapons, you can regain some hit points. Chameleonic skin, so that you can hide and eventually just become invisible for a while. Invisible steps, which lets you teleport if you're in dim light or you're not being currently watched. Nocturnal eyes gives you dark vision. Resilient hide gives you some resistances. And then you get to pick a disadvantage, which is either bloodlust, where when you start with less than half your hit points, you have to pass a save or you attack the nearest creature. Corpse feaster, which is basically pass a save or you will start eating a corpse. If a creature's on 0 hit points, you will make an unarmed strike against them as you try to make them a corpse. Please note, with both of these, you can target your allies, so you have to be careful which you pick. And there's also disturbing presence, which is basically you let out a psychic scream that hurts people. Then at 7th level, you get a extra movement speed, and you get bonus to jumping. you also boost your weapons, basically. Your weapons get a bit stronger. And then supernatural transformation is when you transform, you get to pick one of the supernatural effects. So you have Curse Bringer, which is kind of based off Slender Man, where basically you can curse people to give them horrible effects like paranoia. It's basically the bestow curse spell, but you also get a fifth option, which lets you force the creature to have a wisdom save, or they're charmed and have to try and help you. But no matter which curse you pick, they do things like they have horrible nightmares, they start to suffer from paranoia, hair loss, bloody noses, rashes, and all of these have a 20th level. When you hit 20th level, so if you devote yourself to the class, it gets a bit worse. So at 20th level, you cast Bestow Curse at 9th level, which basically means it's a permanent curse. Fightful Presence, which is like a dragon. Future Sight, basically you get a load of divination, augury stuff that's a bit based off Mothman. Paralyzing Agent, so basically you get to go goo. Regeneration, it's regeneration. And spell casting, you basically just get to cast some spells for free. And then you can use your Brand of Castigation to bind creatures. And then at 18th level, it's very much the same as the Lycanthrope, except the blood curse you get is Blood Curse the Hunted, which is you pick a card creature in 60 feet that can hear you. They must succeed a wisdom save or be frightened until the end of your next turn. While the creature is frightened, as a bonus action, you can teleport 60 feet, up to 60 feet, to the nearest unoccupied space behind the frightened creature. City hasn't really changed its last word on it. Druid is the same. Driver is basically a combination. It's based off the driver, the trope for heist films. Effectively, it's you are really good at driving vehicles. So, 3rd level, you get some bonuses for using a vehicle, and you get stunts, which acts the same as a Battle Master's maneuvers. Your stunts are basically your car goes faster. You get a stunt that lets you do the thing where, like, you're being in a chase and you see the lorry that's nearly about to close, or you slide the bike under the vehicle to kind of get away. There is a chance you can crash. Drive-by, which is basically you get to attack a bunch of creatures while driving past them. Evasive maneuver, which is basically you make it harder for your vehicle to be hit. Hit and run is basically you smash your vehicle into another vehicle, jump into the other vehicle, try to shoot the driver and take control of the vehicle, and hope for the best. Landing shooting is basically you fall out of a vehicle and shoot while you're doing it. Parkour is you can take a motorbike and basically go off-road. Reload slide is basically you get to do a 90 to 180 degree turn, and while you're doing that, you're using it to reload your firearm. And stable drive is you keep the vehicle nice and steady to give your allies bonuses to their attack rolls with ranged weapons. You then get alley gunner, which is basically you can reload your firearm while holding a shield. And you're good at close range shooting, and you can plant your shield in the ground to then use it as mobile cover if you're using a two-handed weapon. Suppressive fire is basically you get to fire at enemies and they can choose to get a bonus to their AC, but then they have disadvantage on their shooting attacks. You then get to learn more advanced vehicles, so seal, air, and you can get some stump die back on when you roll initiative. And you get to reload a firearm even if one hand is on vehicles controls. And then 18th level is basically you can reload firearms as a bonus action, and you get a crit hit on 19 or 20 with firearms. Urban Freedom Monk is the parkour monk. You get athletics or acrobatics. You get to pick. You if you are grappled and you have a feature that you can use for leverage, such as a tree, a bench, an alley wall, you have advantage to escape the grapple check. And then once you've broken out of a grapple, in the same turn, you can use your flurry of blows on whoever was grappling you. The idea of this is kind of like you're effectively running up the wall, or you're using it as something to kind of give yourself force and motion off of. And then when in an urban environment, you can ignore non-magical difficult terrain. Then at 6th level, you're a veteran of parkour, so climbing doesn't cost you extra movement. Technically, at the moment, jumping's done as movement, but in 1 D&D, they want to make jumping an action, so I've kind of gone, you can use jumping as a bonus action instead of an action, so you get a choice on your turn. And then if you make a running jump to like jump to one platform, normally you would then be basically having to either run the full distance to get another running jump, or you just have to do a stationary jump. What I've basically said is, as long as you keep momentum, I will do the hydrate in a second, as long as you are keeping momentum and you're not stopping to do something else, you can maintain the bonus for doing a running jump across multiple platforms. And also, if you take the dash action, you can do a flurry of blows after, because with standard monk, you can only flurry of blows after you've made and done the attack action. Urban combatant is basically if you've used your movement to jump, fall, or move along a vertical surface, any unarmed strikes happen with advantage. So it's kind of like you're jumping onto a platform to hit the person who's either above you, or you're jumping Assassin's Creed style from a platform onto a target below, or even if it's just like you run up the wall to get a better vantage point to roundhouse kick someone in the face, is how I'm imagining it. And then once on each of your turns, when you hit target with an unarmed strike with advantage, you get to add your martial arts die to the damage roll. And then the addition here is, in an urban environment, you just ignore all difficult terrain and can move across slippery ice without needing a dex save. Basically, you know how to manage difficult terrain with your parkour. And then your key capstone is basically, you can use your key to make impossible jumps. So as a bonus action, you can expend 1 to 6 key and gain a fly speed of 10 feet for each point of key spent. And you can also use this as a reaction to falling. So basically it's you get to make the impossible jumps possible. Technically, I believe you're meant to capitalize these with 1 D&D. And then we have Oath of Justice, which is basically the activist paladin. The key things for them is their spells are very different. They really do not have combat spells, because the big thing is paladin is a really good combat class, and a lot of spells generally wind down to, why would I use combat spell? I have Divine Smite, the class feature. The other thing is, I kind of view the activist paladins more, they're the person that goes to a protest and cares more if the authorities crack down on it, trying to get other people out over trying to attack other people. So they're things like comprehend languages, cure wounds, passive outtrace, zone of truth, invisibility to cameras, mass healing word, dimension door, freedom of movement, mass cure wounds, and shutdown. That they're about supporting multiple people. Their channel divinity is Balm for the Just, which is basically you can use your channel divinity to get off an equivalent to healing word. a 30-foot range healing word for an action, or you can, as an action, throw a bomb that's made of a combination of paint and smoke. So you pick a point in 30 feet, the bomb then explodes with a radius of 15 feet. Creatures you choose have to make a dex save, or they're covered in glowing paint that then acts like fairy fire. Everyone else in that smoke cloud gains the benefit of the invisible condition as per the 1 D&D rules, which is basically you're obscured, so you can't be targeted by things that require line of sight, and you have disadvantage to attack rolls against them. The key thing is they can't see out of the smoke. The smoke is very opaque. But the key thing is it gives everyone who you want to help a chance of cover. Everyone you don't want to help is glowing. And then your aura ability is basically you give temporary hit points. And then you have rallying cry at 15th level, which is you have an advantage on charisma checks for public speaking, but also in combat you can give rousing speech. Those creatures get temporary hit points, and the reason you would pick this temporary hit point, these temporary hit points over these ones, is this number should be bigger, and also while you are benefiting from this temporary hit point, you have advantage on saving throws. And then ever-present activist is basically they get resistance to damage. Allies have advantage on death saves within 30 feet of you. Your lay on hands restore 5 hit points. And if you hit a creature with a melee attack, you can choose to do no damage, but the creature is marked, and all attack rolls made against them are made with advantage. This is the support paladin. They will try to resolve it through talking, rousing others to act, and then protecting others when they are acting. Scion we're not going to touch yet because I need to work out hacking mechanics. Then you have Urban Explorer, which, very much like Paladin, is a what the fuck subclass because it isn't very combat based. It's basically built around the exploration side of stuff. So like their spells are Comprehend Languages, Spider Climb, Speak with Dead, Banishment, and Legend Lore. They get proficiency in Sleight of Hand and Thieves' Tools. They get Dark Vision to 60 feet. And can call any path they've travelled within the last month. So if they're down in the sewers trying to find where the thing is coming through, or they're exploring an abandoned warehouse, they will not get lost. The other third level ability is, and this is where I do like 1 D&D, they added what's called the study action, which is effectively the action for all of the knowledge skills. So what I've said is when you're using the study action in an area with appropriate record, like a library, archives, the internet, you have advantage on skill checks to research local structures, locations, and folklore. And then no matter what the information is, even if it's images, audio, video, building plans, as well as written words, you can perfectly recall it for a month. After the month, it's regular recollection. It's as good as human memory can be. Basically, this is the I'm going to prep to go into the dangerous section. Then you get to 6th level, which is I have gone into the dangerous section. So that is during combat, you can choose to state the study action as a bonus action. No matter if it's in combat or not, as part of the study action, if you are recalling knowledge about a specific creature or object you can see or hear. If you succeed the study action, in addition to the normal result of a successful roll, you get to learn one extra thing. So if the target has any immunities, resistances, or vulnerabilities, and what they are, which is actually fairly average for about a 6th level effect, there's a bunch of different subclasses that do that. If it's a creature, you could instead choose to learn if it's legendary or mythic, and if it's an object, what its rarity is. You can choose to have a general summary of unique trait or action. So what I'm imagining there is it's not the DM for a ghoul reads you the stunning claw or a dragon's fire breath, where it's kind of like, oh, you recall this bit of knowledge that like ghouls emit saliva onto their claws, and that if they cut you with it, you'll be stunned for a while. That's like folklore. Or maybe, oh, you know that dragons breathe fire. It's kind of like you get an in-universe summary of what something unique about that creature is, or you just get an additional lore fact. You just get a bit more lore than normal. If the target's hidden from divination magic, you don't get to learn anything unless you pick the additional lore fact, at which point the DM will still give you a fact, it just might not be correct. If you chose immunity, resistance, or vulnerabilities to the target of your hunter's mark, then your weapon attacks ignore resistances and immunities that would alter the damage dealt by the weapon. This doesn't affect additional damage dealt by spells cast on you or it. So if you have a sword that can set on fire, the sword and the fire get to ignore resistances and immunities. If, however, then someone cast one of the smite spells on you, the smite spell's effect wouldn't get to ignore resistances or immunity. This is like the only combat skill, and it's a combat skill tacked onto a knowledge skill. Tested Explorer is you get proficiency in wisdom saves and advantage on saves against being frightened. If you already have a wisdom save, you get to pick something else. And you can use wisdom instead of intelligence for the study action, which is good because Ranger already has enough skill proficiencies to worry about without having to like go, oh, I need to also buff my intelligence. And then Explorer's Rebuttal is when a creature is under the effect of your hunter's mark, it effectively has fairy fire applied to it. The actual feature is when you are hit by an attack roll, you can use your reaction to immediately gain information as if you had made the study check with the earlier feature. And you also get to automatically apply Hunter's Mark to the target without requiring a spell slot. You're still taking the full damage, which is more than most Ranger classes do, but you get to apply Hunter's Mark and get some knowledge. So then you get all the benefits, including the fact they're fairy fired, and your weapons will get to ignore resistances and immunities. And then we're on to Rogue, which is what we're currently working on. So originally, basically yesterday I did one of these streams and I planned out where everything was going. My original plan was the first ability would be like the Thief, where basically they get to cunning action, sleight of hand. The next effect would be something to do with traps and technology. Then they would get an ability to teleport. Then they would get a combat effect. Then they would get invisibility. What we ended with, because this is just before stream happened, I was looking at it, and I had copied over, because I need a rough template of how many abilities people get at what level. I copied over the Soul Knife for Rogue, which has a bunch of, you can use side-eye to do stuff. And I was looking at it and I was listening to someone discussing about cyberpunk edge runners, and then it suddenly occurred, hold on a second, I've called this a cyber operative. What if they had implants? What if I let you have a comment? Because basically what I've done is I've taken from Warlock Ghost in the Machine the wire walk ability, because it actually works better here. And the original one was just, you can teleport if you're touching an electrical wire, like data port, telephone cable, something, you could, as a bonus action, travel through it to a point you could see. And it'd be really cool if you could go further. And then I went, what if like you had an implant and you could use a charge to go further? And then from there it spiraled. So what we're currently working on as the design principle is the cyber operative is a cyborg. And at third level, you get implanted into your arms thieves' tools and hackers' tools. So obviously they cannot be removed from you, and it's just they're deployed when you make the skill check. You're also proficient in hackers' tools, I should also say. And then you have a cranial implant which powers all your implants and controls them. And you can activate specific subroutines to give you a boost called implant charges. Implant charges are equal to your proficiency bonus. At 10th level, it's double your proficiency bonus. You regain them all on a long rest. So at third level, you get 2 here, which is if you fail an ability check using a skill or tool which you have proficiency, you can use a charge roll, re-roll the d20. You have to use the re-roll result. And then Safe Cracker is, as a bonus action, you can give yourself a cunning action to make a dexterity sleight of hand check, or use the thieves or hackers tools to disarm a trap or open a lock. Tech Sense is basically you get detect magic, but you can see. Theoretically, yes, I've not done that. I think because there's a few people who deal with stuff. Actually, no, that's a lie. I actually believe I did. Yeah, the artificer cyberneticist, the person that inputs implants into people, has you have advantage on skill checks using your hacker's tools to interact with cybernetics. Whenever you cast a spell that requires an opponent to make a saving throw using your hacker's tools as a spellcasting focus, if they have cybernetic augmentations, the creature has disadvantage on their saving throws. So I do have someone who will, in fact, be able to screw with you. And theoretically, the Scion is going to be all about hacking, so they may have something that interacts with cyborg subclasses. Yeah, so tech sense is basically you get detect magic, but you can see. Yeah. Theoretically, also you could just give monsters that ability of just fucking with cyborgs. It's not fair that the party has a ton of fuck with cyborg effects. So the rogue then gets tech sense, which is basically detect magic, but instead of detect magic, it's you can see wires, cables, electronic and techno-magical devices in a room. And you can, as an action, focus on one device to get a more sense of how it works, which then gives you advantages on skill checks to analyze, interact, or interrupt the device. And then this is when we start seeing the cybernetic implant thing come in that every feature basically has at least one. Here, you can fuck with the feature by spending an implant charge. And this one is basically you get to where you're looking around the room, you can spend a charge and you can see if anything would be considered a trap. So then at 10th level, you have Wire Walk, which is, as a bonus action, you can teleport to something you can see. If you spend a charge, you can teleport up to a mile. But you've either got to be able to see, visualize, or describe by stating a distance and direction. And the other important thing is there has to be a continuous physical or data link between where you are and the location is. And if there isn't, the spell fails and you take some damage. And then digital invisibility is basically you can, as an action, disrupt tech and tech magical devices, becoming undetectable to scanners, sensors, and cameras. And then you can spend a charge to then just completely go invisible from the naked eye, and also cover up anything you're carrying or wearing. Though, if you're invisible, it does end if you deal damage to something, whereas the normal tech blocking is just, it's an hour until you end it. 6th level is Cybernetic Reaper, which is what I am currently working on. Because I had an idea and it's kind of developed a bit. So you've got Cybernetic Reaper, which is basically you can deploy blades from your arms. And what my thought is that there will be two implant effects. One is based around the arms, one isn't. The one that's not based around the arms is just you can spend a charge and you get advantage on death saves for that turn. For just that one death save, I should say. The other is you can spend a charge to... there is a condition in the new 1D&D called Dazed, which is what I want, because it's not as powerful as Stun, which is the important bit, and it's not in the one with the Cleric. Oh no, was it not in the one with... It's not in this one. It was, however, in this one. It was in the... D&D wants to work, here we go. So it was in this one, in the Cleric. And I love it as a conceptual thing. It's... because it is just the better... It is the more playable version of Stunned. It doesn't completely break the game. It's dazed. So the target who is dazed can move or take one action on your turn, not both. You also cannot take a bonus action or a reaction. And what I would maybe also say is they cannot benefit from multi-attack or extra attack. So they have to pick... Oh no, that doesn't really affect monsters. That would only really affect players. Because monsters, technically multi-attack is just... The way multi-attack works is kind of like in a turn you can do these actions, these set number of actions at once. So it wouldn't actually really matter. Yeah, Dazed is good. But the other thing I want to do with this is, if as a Cybernetic Reaper, if you reduce a creature who either has cybernetic implants or... sorry, I should state it as cybernetic augmentation, so it's all the same language, or is a construct, you can, if you deal the killing blow, you get to regain one of your charges in the day. Effectively use the last of their energy to just replenish your charges a bit. So the way they did it with Phantom was, if you actually saw a creature dying, you didn't have to do it yourself. But what we could do is we could go... If you see a creature... If you see a creature with cybernetic augmentations or a construct be reduced to 0 hit points within 30 feet's a bit far, 15 feet of you, you can use the reaction. If you, with this weapon, reduced it to 0, you don't have to use a reaction. Yeah. Yeah. That's got the core essence. And now I can just. I'm not modifying, so I'll copy this bit. So the first one we want is Institution saving throw. Uh, for a single charge until yeah, it's dazed until the end of its next turn. And then the other thing was so then that's it, that's rogue. So they get basically points they can use to modify themselves, and they get like some fancy stuff in their arms. They could basically get some buffs to their skill monkey, and they get the ability to see technology. Then at higher level, they get the ability to basically have some free weapons that can't be removed from them. And then they get some cool effects. Basically, they're harder to kill. I'm going to make that 2 implant charges. Um, then they get the ability to teleport through wires, and then they get the ability to go invisible. So then we hit Digital Soul. Oh no, has it not saved? Oh no, that's fine, because that's just spell from a spell list. So we can basically close this point because we're not messing with stuff really from 1D&D anymore. I'm looking for Sorcerer. So next we have Sorcerer. So we have the Digital Soul. So in the age-old fashion of everyone tearing their hair out in D&D, we have the classic conundrum of what is the difference between a sorcerer, a warlock, and a wizard? Because they're all arcane casters. They're all arcane casters. Um, they all want to do fancy shit. So, give me just a second. Something's gone a little bit doolally. Go check my connection. It's still up. Yes, it's still good. Okay. So, what do we want to do here? So, the key difference I kind of see is Digital Soul is basically your soul has been constructed by a machine intelligence. So it's going to be more about kind of you digitize your spells, you interact with machines easier. Perhaps your capstone is my current thought on capstone is maybe like you can transform, you can swap bodies, as it were. Hold on, 18, 14, 6. Shoot. Didn't realize they had an extra one. Okay, I'll have to work that out. Ghost in the Machine is more someone slowly being corrupted by becoming more machine-like, and then Technomancer is basically technology makes your spell casting better. Interestingly, Digital Mind and whatever the last thing of Sorcerer is going to be is kind of similar, because Wizard is basically you get to download your brain in the event of death into a machine, whereas I look at it more as Sorcerer is kind of like, Sorcerer is very much, what are they called? We did it back in the day. Give me a sec. Fudge nuggets. Such a good RPG. It's the idea I have is it kind of I don't know if anyone will come across this. Have people here heard of an RPG called Eclipse Phase? Eclipse Phase was this transhumanist RPG where effectively you could buy different bodies and have your mind kind of shunted into it. God, I hope it isn't gone because I loved that game back in the day. God, I miss Eclipse Phase. That was such a good RPG back in the day. I'm trying to remind myself um, the phrasing they used. I guess I should just say, if you enjoyed, if you enjoy kind of the tonal beats I'm hitting here, go check out Eclipse Phase. It was freaking amazing. Um, it was like Earth you can't go to anymore. Um, because Earth is basically a hellscape destroyed by nanomachines, AI gone rampant, and World War III. So humanity kind of lives in the inner systems, which is capitalist hellscape. You have the exoplanets, which are like in the asteroid belt, with like anarchy groups and hyper capitalists that are like super into I swear that one of them's like really into mutations. You have like the Jupiter people who are like this military dictatorship, and then you have weird other, basically any other type of government you can have in like past Jupiter into the outer solar system. Oh god. You had like you could be sapient animals. It was great. It was a percentile system. What I'm trying to remember is but no, that there was a phrase they used in the game. It was kind of how the bodies worked. Um, that's it. Morphs. Morphs was the phrase they used. Morphs was what they used. Sorry, I got on a tangent there. And the idea of morphs was kind of you had these different bodies, but each body was custom built for a specific function. So yeah, so my thought is kind of like it's a bit like Near Automata, really. From what I gather, it's kind of like you can die, but then you're just uploaded to an earlier save. No idea how I'm going to make that work. I love how it's like, oh, it's like we're approaching the kind of we're dancing around transhumanism. We're really going to like cyberpunk with a cyberneticist. The Chem Warriors going a bit into your 40k, like post-apocalypse, College of Influence, more modern day. Cryptid is just weird. Sea Domain's fairly modern day. Circular transformations, you're beginning to push in again to that cyberpunky state. Drivers, perfectly good modern day. Urban freedom, justice, urban explorer, modern day. Cyber operative, we're pushing cyberpunk, and then you fucking get to these three, and it's like, here's transhumanism. Here's my essay on transhumanism. As we look at warlock, sorcerer, and wizard. God. Yeah, I've just got to have a think. So the general concept is we want. So with wizard, it's you are using technology to enhance your casting. That's their entire thing. Is they're about making tech update. Basically, it's like I'm updating my spellbook to technology, whereas the sorcerer is my magic is technology. So we have to ask the question of how do we represent that? How best to do this? See, my mind keeps going back to the body swap spare body bit, and I'm just sat there going, "Oh, that's." I have a feeling when I crack that, that's going to crack the entire class wide open, but don't know. I just don't know. Because, yeah, in this. Because I guess the thing is, the other one is you're using tech to cast your spells. This is more just how you interact with technology as an essence. Um, hmm. At this point, it's not we're trying to find the words, we're trying to find the concept. It's like with Rogue, where I was looking at it one way, and then I got it. It just clicked, and then I had to rethink everything. That's what I'm kind of waiting for here. I'm waiting for the bit where Sorcerer just clicks. Problem is, I don't really deal with Sorcerer. That might be the first step. Okay, let's look at this. So, the Sorcerer is very much the combat class. It's not as cantrip heavy as Warlock, but it usually has all the combat spells. So you get your bloodline at first level, gift of the eye. Hi, I'm doing alright. trying to get into the headspace of sorcerers. Font of magic. So that's their big thing. It's meta magic. Maybe we could play with that. Maybe we could play with meta magic. That could be something. Yeah, you could play. Guess what? I want to go to another. Oh, that's kind of cool. So you get to actually customize your table. Do they all get that? We'll have to check. So then they got telepathy. They got expecting spells. Spend a number of sorcerer points. Oh, ammunition. Yep. Then you got to get Eldritch, then you got to explode. Oh yeah, same here. So I'll have to think of what spell. Okay, so what if... Okay. 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 So what is it? Which one of these wasn't commune with city? Oh, that's alright. Really? Synchronicity would maybe be cool. Sorcerer. Yeah, synchronicity actually suits. What's level up for? Right, sorcerer. Here we go. Synchronicity. I'll have to think more about what spell this want to do there. What we'll do is A lot of it deals with time and space, which I think are very much in the domain of the digital. Um, hmm. So, Abramine Digital Soul. Let's have a think. Where is the list of spell schools? Let's do a simple problem. Let's do a simple problem. Right, so spellcasting. I think I need is a list of spells. Okay, so spellcasting. What is a spell? No, prepared spells. First slots. Right, components, duration, targets. Area of effect, saving for. Here we go. Schools of Magic. Abjuration is protective. Conjuration is transportation. Divination is information. Enchantment. Vocation. Transmutation is to change the property. Tempted by. See, it depends. If you go. See, digital is the conversion of everything into information. So, in theory, the perfect thing is transmutation, transmutation, divination. However, I don't think divination is the right kind of information. Transmutation feels reasonable. Part of me wants to go transmutation, conjuration. Or maybe conjuration, aberration, abjuration. Conjuration transmutation would kind of deal with. Maybe transmutation necromancy, because. The thing about the digital soul is. What do they choose for transmutation abjuration? I can see that. Transmutation. Because abjuration is kind of messing with the laws of magic. Maybe transmutation. I'm thinking for transmutation necromancy or transmutation Abjuration, conjuration. Which is, let's see. Should it make appear simulacrum? Is illusion? Mutation necromancy, I think we'll go for. No, I think actually abjuration in this case. Because I'm calling this digital spell, so effectively they're working with fundamental laws. At which point... So at that point, go to... So, level 1. Level 1 spells from the basic rulebook. Because every subclass uses spells from the basic rulebook. Even if you really like a spell from outside of it. It's just not allowed with the way that D&D works. So, what hits us as digital? Do command. Command and detect magic. Command to identify. Command magic missile. Go to magic missile and shield. Let's go. To consider a cantrip. I don't know if there are any good cantrips that would. Do shocking grasp. I think that's the only one that ever gave a cantrip. Yeah, I'm doing well. Gift to the Gabby. Let's go well. Just trying to make spell lists make sense. How are you doing? So far, alter self. Alter self, dark vision, detect thoughts, enhance ability, thrall. Gentle repose, heat metal, invincibility, knock, levitate. Reduce invisibility. Increase invisibility and spells. Do we have a second level here? So you have arcane hacking, digital phantom. Maybe digital phantom. Counter spell. Dispel magic. Haste. System back door. That works. That actually works quite well. That works really well. Oh, bugger. Banish. Banish dimension door. Banish fabricate. What does fabricate do? No dimension door. Banishment. Yeah, that kind of works. That kind of works. Let's go with damage. Object. Oh, yeah. No, we don't want that. Test belly, good. Flame strike, guess is can do gears. Memory. Transmutation. No. Right. So that's that bit done. So Kind of the rule for teleportation, for telepathy. It just occurred to me, what if? Because my kind of thought was, what if? Uh, oh, me. What if it could? What if the divine sorcerer could speak machine code? The line you often hear the moment robots get involved is the fact that machines can speak quicker than humans. So what if we gave you the ability? What if we gave you the ability to Order gave you the ability to basically do telepathic communication, but only for machines and constructs. If it knows machine language, so you can have telepathy to anyone with a cybernetic or construct type. And then if it's a machine, you get your own if it also knows machine language, then effectively your telepathic communication happens quicker. A conversation that would take a minute takes only a second. Then at 6th level, you can have sorcery, digital sorcery, which basically lets you fuck around with spells. And we give you something that lets you interact with machines easier. So, but it won't be proper telepathy, it will be ranged communication um, without the use of the spell. It's a bit too complicated, maybe. I don't know. I'll think about it. Um, I'll think about how I want to word that one because that might be a bit too complicated. But yeah, so my current thought is weird digital language first. Let you modify magic second. Interact with machines third. Well, I wonder how they are going to do sorcerer. A completely odd thought. I wonder how they are going to do sorcerer. I guess, like cleric, you can kind of hand wave it to third. It's like, oh yeah, the source of your magic hasn't changed. It's just you don't get to feel the effects of your source of magic until you're at third level. It's like, okay. I know it feels kind of odd. Still don't know how they're going to do it with Warlock, because Warlock very much. Warlock and Sorcerer are both weird. I'm not sure how I feel if they try and make both of them start their subclass at third. I do not know how I feel about it at all. I can see them maybe making That's the thing. Warlock's fun is its customization, but its choices all the way down. Yeah, well. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna break for now. We're gonna finish this so I can have some time to think because I need to think real hard about this and go to the machine because oh god. Gonna put a pin. I'm gonna break and have some dinner and then we will be back later with some video games. So that I think is the best way for us to go ahead. Here comes the question. I mean, if anyone has any last minute thoughts they want to bring up, any ideas for sorcerer? As I said, I'm very open to ideas if anyone has any because I'm kind of sat there going, huh, what do I do with my life? It's the age-old problem. I have no clue. I have no clue where we go from here. You know what? Okay. Let's finish up for today. Let's go. So, let's finish up there for today. And